Okay, we're here with City Council candidate Sam Mota. Sam, thanks for joining us today. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for City Council?
Yeah, of course. So, hi everyone. My name is Samantha Mota. I'm the youngest candidate running for City Council. I'm a Santa Monica native, a Pico neighborhood renter, a guerrilla gardener, community activist, but most importantly, I'm a lover of the community. The reason I am running is it's actually my heart's desire to run for City Council. A long time ago, I met with former city manager Rick Cole, and it was sitting in his office that I knew City Council was where I belonged. Because I knew that's where I could make the biggest change for our community and for generations to come.
Cool. So I want to start by talking about your environmental activism, which is such a key part of your background. So what have you learned about the way that Santa Monica government works from your advocacy on AB 551?
Of course. It's been with AB 551, I feel like it's been all talk and no action. Like we got it through Parks and Recs Commission, and it's on its way to City Council. And I know we're trying to get the city manager to get it into like a priority kind of thing. It's something, that would generate more revenue, bring more community access to land, water, a bunch of other things, and further a lot of sustainability policies and plans that are already put in place.
Cool. So just specifically what I was asking about there was like in the work that you've done advocating for that, what have you witnessed about how Santa Monica as a government works? Is it really effective? Is it easy to get the meetings? Is there any pushback, anything like that?
I found it kind of very difficult, especially like organizing with other members of the community, to get this going and rolling. Like, I've been working on it personally for 3 years, if not a little longer maybe, but I know there's people there that like in our group that has been pushing for this like even longer than I have, and it's been a little frustrating, and I think that's also a reason why I'm running too, because it's like, I have this knowledge in my head and just sitting here doing nothing with it, like it's like I had to go do something.
Perfect. Got it. Okay, cool. So one more question and then I'll see what everyone else has to ask. But given your background, what are some of the key environmental justice issues in Santa Monica? I know you said you want to focus on all of them, but if you came onto the city council, what would be your top priority in terms of environmental justice? Is there one particular issue that you'd like to, see addressed right away?
I'd say two. Like I've been organizing. I just had a previous meeting with some community members. We're going to organize for the all electric buildings and EV reach code, which city council is going to vote on, I think the 27th of September, because it did not get the passing of the Fire Life Safety Commission. So we're going to go ahead and champion for that. So that's one policy that I would hope to, bring along. And then another one is definitely AB 551, opening more community access for not just for our youth, for our community now, but also for generations to come, like I'm not going to be here forever.
Cool. Okay. Who wants to ask the next question? Dolly.
Yes, Samantha, we met at the rally for rent control, and I was really so impressed by your flyer. I thought it was a great promotional piece because it listed some of the programs you've been involved in a leadership role, including the ones that you've just spoken about in answer to John's question. Tell us about some of the other roles that you've played and positions that you've held and so forth.
So I've been a member. I was a former member of Climate Action Santa Monica, where we empowered youth to take the reins for the fight against climate change. And that's actually where I got my start kind of rolling, like, and it led me into getting more involved and engaged. And then I ended up, somebody had like recommended that I join the Public Safety and Reform Oversight Commission. So I did that and I actually really liked it. I learned a lot, and especially reading the OIR report, you know, like I learned that like our police department was extremely like not ready and not prepared for this. And they have a great list of recommendations that, you know, deserve to be implemented, and we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa.
So sorry, I had to be off camera there for just a little bit. I was cooking for my son. You touched on this a little bit, and you opened with your opening statement, you know, emphasizing you're the youngest candidate in the race. I wanted to hear a little bit from your perspective what you think your youth, you know, adds as a benefit and a plus.
I believe my youth adds as a benefit and a plus that, like, the reality is we're talking about policies and programs that affect every generation, including the ones that are right here with us today. And, you know, our youth are very passionate about this, and it's about engaging our youth to actually get more engaged and involved, because I've talked with older folks and sometimes they feel like it's kind of pointless talking with our council members on these issues that they're very passionate about. But as soon as you get our youth involved, like, it's a whole different thing, because these are things that can easily become a protest for our youth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next? Okay, Patricia.
Yeah, I just want to say, Samantha, that I was sorry to see you leave the PSROC. Your voice was really valuable, and it's sorely, sorely, sorely missed now with George Brown gone, and you know.
Yeah.
That was actually a really tough one for me. I'm gonna be very honest and open with you guys. Like, I cried, you know, like I was 22 at the age, and like it was kind of like very awakening to me. Like, I kind of felt like I was having opportunities and fairly stripped from my hands. And I cried, and, you know, I like kind of went down like this hole for a bit, but then like, it's like, you know, nothing was stopping me from running for city council but myself. And like, this has always been my biggest dream and passion. You know, I love our community. And so like finally going after it, I was like, you know, it's either I do it now or I don't ever do it.
What's your following up on that? Well, what's your assessment on how the PSROC has been running? As Patricia said, there's been a little bit of a turnover with George Brown not there anymore. How do you think things are developing over there?
I know that they're trying to get a lot more independence from the police department, and it's going to be a tough one, because I know the police also has they want to also be heard. And I think that's where we need to kind of partnership with our community and the police department, is like, you know, you also need to listen to our community and what their worries and concerns are for our city and ways we can improve it. And yeah, I know George Brown, he was he's a very valuable piece of that group, and it was really unfortunate to see him go. But, you know, we can actually learn a lot from him. You know, he's doing work in Stanford right now with public safety. So there's still ties there that we can work with.
It's great. Anyone have another question?
Sure. I'll
Yeah,
ask one.
Isabel, go ahead.
So hi, Samantha. Nice to meet you. So I know a big concern for all of us, and I can see from your questionnaire it is for you too, is the lack of affordable housing in Santa Monica. And I know that really affects young people. You know, I have two children in your age group, you know, very hard for them to afford to live here if they even could. And I see you had some ideas. But I was a little bit struck by that you said one of your ideas was to end single family zoning. Could you elaborate on that? And
Yes.
other ideas that you have about zoning and how we can create more affordable housing?
Well, yeah, of course. Well, growing up in the Pico neighborhood, it's not only the most developed neighborhood, it's also one of the most displaced neighborhoods as well. So, it's also about talking about these racially charged practices that still exist to this day. Single family zoning was one of those. And, we keep densifying R2 and R3 zones. And I think it's about opening up neighborhoods that would often be left untouched. And, educating our community, especially our youth, on these policies that exist, because they're harming our housing. And this is something that could potentially open up more lots and more space. Not to say that I want 10-story buildings, but just something where we can open up our streets and, not stop, when we densify R2 and R3 zones, it displaces rent controlled, long-term, mostly rent controlled tenants. And so I think that's also another thing that I wanted to touch on was gentrification and displacement, and which is really prominent in Santa Monica right now.
So those two measures, I forgot if they were AB or SB, but 9 and 10 did pass. Are you supportive of those? And are you supportive of even more units on single lots?
Yeah, of course. I think to reach our housing goals, but we also need to do it from, like you said, you have 2 children, and I'm with you on that. And I have younger sisters, where this is something that's really scary for us, we might not even be able to afford to live in California. And it's all creating priority housing and affordable housing is a really important policy. And I think preference policies, having preference for I who are native to Santa Monica. So it's if you want to keep living here, you have that affordability to do so. And, I hope to see that they can still keep living here and have families here one day,
Are you in favor? Do you see a limit to how many units per lot that would make sense to you? Or do you think it should be unlimited?
I don't think it should be unlimited, but at the same time, I think when we're developing a lot, it's always only 10% is going to go to affordable housing, and only this amount is going to be rent controlled units. And it's that's not solving our housing crisis. It's never going to. It's either we need to build more affordable housing where it's 100% affordable housing with rent control. I got my apartment passed down from my grandma, and I'm fortunate to still even be here in Santa Monica and have my family still be here. And, so it's we're on a lease, and it wouldn't be without rent control that I wouldn't be able to afford living here.
All right. Yeah, it's a reality. Thanks.
Anybody have another question? Dolly, yeah, go for it.
Yes, I have an idea, not a question, and I'm kind of trying to get it into a question. And it has to do with getting, there's been a lot of good and worthwhile and necessary attention to the Black community because of the murder of George Floyd and so forth. How can we, what I'm trying to say is, how can we get more activation in this city towards improving the lives of our Hispanic people? I see that, especially the young people. I can't remember what they call it, but the gap that they have in the high school is still there. It was there when I moved in 1978, and it's still there now. So generally speaking, what do you think you could do on the council in terms of legislation or just advocacy that would better improve the future of our Hispanic youth in Santa Monica?
Yeah, most definitely. I think building, being Hispanic, I didn't have a lot of opportunities that a lot of people did. I come from a low income family. I work at Dogtown. I work on a minimum wage. But I think one thing would, provide programs for them and opportunities that would often be out of reach for them. And provide better funding for schools to get them those tools and resources that, a lot of us didn't have. And I know a lot of us didn't get those resources, and we need, our youth we keep saying our youth are the future, but honestly, the youth are here now, and that's our present.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're talking about, our future, and, also like, I think engaging our police, building youth programs with our police department as well. And just building community trust with our police department to have more credibility and transparency and accountability.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have another one for you, Sam. You mentioned in your questionnaire that we could potentially use the money that's currently going to some of our city staff salaries towards better use. Are you at all concerned that if we lower the staffers' salaries, that we won't be able to recruit sort of the top tier staff that we need for Santa Monica?
Yes, but at the same time, I would say, like, why do you need to be paid $300,000 a year? I mean, I know it's a lot of extensive work, but at the same time, I think more gets done when you're like being, you're like kind of on the reins of things. I always tell people, put Congress on a $15 minimum wage and watch things get done, so, and I'm not talking about like our staffers that like kind of do everything, from like our trash and, those things, like on our city clerks, like they're very vital people. But I think like other staff members who potentially don't even live in our city or don't plan to be here for that long,
Got it. Okay, cool. Any other last questions from the rest of the board? Oh, okay, great. Oh, yeah, Dolly, go for it.
Yeah, I sent you a letter inviting you to come to our D&I committee and share some of your experiences, and I really hope you will.
Yeah, of course, I would love to. I don't think I got your email, but some people have been telling me, sorry, I'm looking for a pen.
I'll send it again, okay?
Yeah, some people have been telling me that my emails have been bouncing back. I'm not quite sure why, so I'm trying to figure that out, but I definitely.
We'll make sure to get you in touch for sure, because I
Okay.
know that our D&I committee is looking at doing a meeting this month on Hispanic Heritage Month. So I think you'd be a
We
great.
don't know the date yet, though, do we?
Well, we'll work on that outside of
We're
this.
working on it, right? Okay. Yeah,
Sam,
I'll send it again to you.
great. Sam, do you want to make a closing statement and then we'll wrap up?
Yeah, of course. I think my closing statement is why I believe I'm the most viable candidate. And I know I'm the most viable candidate because I'm the youngest, the most passionate and vibrant voice for the community. Being the youngest, I represent a different demographic, and I represent, the desire to create change, and I bring new and different perspectives to what our community has the capability of becoming. My passion gives me the drive and motivation to, create, to bring that change and actually be that voice. And then the vibrancy I generate, will ensure that our community is listened to and spoken for in every policy and program that is brought to the table, because nothing matters more to me than our community, and I've always stood for that. So thank you so much, and thank you for your time, everybody.
All
Great.
right.
Thank you so much for coming, Sam. Really great getting to know you.
It was nice to meet you, Sam.
Yeah, you too. Have a lovely night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.